but he's going to try to get it done here. Let's see the opening choice. E4, D4, E4, and yeah, something else. You know what I mean, right? He went E5, and we have an Alapin. Let's go. I like that. I ain't gonna lie. I love
happy
Alapin.
James and a happy David.
Definitely love Alapin.
It's the Alapin Sicilian, also known as the C3 Sicilian. White played that move on, move 2. Hence, he is able to build a big pawn center. That pawn gets captured. Magnus temporarily, with a pawn sacrifice here, kicks back the black knight from the center. And this is something that Magnus employed yesterday, this opening, the C3 Sicilian, so it shouldn't come as a shock for Jan Nepomniachtchi. If he's been doing his homework, he might have a plan here. The thing is, your plans might all be thrown out the window. He didn't expect to be 2 points down. And he does play a very rare move, getting ready to fianchetto the black bishop. And now white's main move by far is knight to G5. I've been playing this since I was a kid, this opening, and it's a simple checkmate in one threat. But sometimes the simple caveman approach is actually the best one. Magnus isn't a habitual kind of long-term C3 Sicilian player, just coming to it in recent times. So, okay, he doesn't go for the main line, instead just the most natural move, recapturing a pawn.
The most annoying thing for a Sicilian player to face the Alapin, the 2C3, is that it sort of just crushes your hopes, right? Because you're really hoping for an open Sicilian. You've got your ideas whether you want to go into a dragon or a Najdov or play the Sveshnikov, but C3 just completely changes the dynamics, the core of what the Sicilian for the black pieces stands for.
Yeah, it's very fun. That's why it's, I think actually, okay, I'll say this. Magnus has a tweet out there. You can Google this. It's a long time ago, but if you Google C3 Sicilian Magnus, there's a tweet that comes up, in fact, and he says that, hey, pro tip, play the Alapin against me. I hate it. I remember seeing this, so I was already super hyped. This was years ago when he said this. So, of course, he's just doing it to everyone else. You're like, oh, you want to play Sicilian? C3. And then you're like, you get kind of frustrated sometimes. But it depends on what kind of game you're looking for.
Yeah, you're right, James. I once played Magnus in 2009 in the London Chess Classic, and it was a long game. It was a draw, ultimately. And afterwards, he was like, David, why are you playing the C3 Sicilian? Like, you could be so much more. You could be so much better. And then I was like, what do you mean? It was a draw. I drew against the 1-1. He's like, yeah, I mean, I want you to stop playing it because I hate it. I hate playing against it. And now he's adopted it from the white side. And in the meantime, we see an isolated queen's pawn. So it's a bit of a mirror image from game 1. Jan was the one with the IQP, the isolated pawn in that game. This time it's Magnus. He's pushing it forward. This is actually a transposition now to a Grunfeld/Caro-Kann hybrid. Black has an extra move.
Nice.
Black queen on d6 is well developed. I'm expecting the knight to go to the edge of the board. Jan is a Grunfeld player. This is very similar to one of the main lines of the Grunfeld, actually. And you can use a bit of pattern recognition here. I do believe Magnus is uncomfortable with white. He doesn't like playing with isolated pawns in general. So a good start to the game for Jan, as Magnus either enjoying the music or trying to remember his opening theory.
Or he's just enjoying the math situation. He's up 2 games right now, going into this third one. For Jan, I agree with you. You can create the first imbalance by picking up the bishop, get the bishop pair, start targeting that central pawn. And look at Magnus. He's trying to remember some setups, some plans right now. Head in hands, I think he's kind of going through in his head, David, what are the different ways in which white can complete development. He looks distraught, but he's not feeling distraught just yet.
And he's listening to the Black Keys, Magnus Carlsen.
Lonely boy.
Lonely boy.
He's listening to the Black Keys, but he's not playing with the black pieces. He's, got to get the action going here. But it is Jan Nepomniachtchi to go into the tank for the first long think of this game.
There's maybe, okay, rook e1.
Okay, what?
I'm not the biggest fan of these C3 Sicilians because the pawn is weak on d5, but there is chances to create stuff like bishop g5 hits e7. You can go bishop takes e7 type thing.
Well, one very direct thing in this position is that black could trade the bishop and the knight and pick up the d5 pawn. But that's usually, he does the bishop, but I would be very surprised if we see a bishop takes knight, because you never really want to give up that fianchetto bishop. It's such a powerful piece required to defend your own king that bishop takes knight to pick up the d5 pawn just looks too greedy and will get you into a lot of trouble. I'm expecting Magnus to recapture with the a pawn, developing his rook that's on the a file without having to move it. Wow, Magnus seems a bit surprised. It looked like he missed something. Did he miss that the d5 pawn is hanging?
Potentially, although in those kind of associated openings that often reach this type of position by transposing, this is a typical idea. Often you do give up a pawn and you just play as if nothing happened. I'm really surprised Magnus is thinking, as you say, Tanya.
He might be thinking queen takes.
I mean, it's between these two moves, right? It's queen takes knight, pawn takes knight. And both have got their own sort of advantages here. James, intuitively, which one? How do you want to recapture
I
here?
like taking with the queen to encourage him to actually, to encourage the pawn. I really want you to do bishop c3. Believe it or not, I'm actually going b c3. If queen d5, I go rook e7. And then if knight d5, I have bishop h6 first, maybe followed by a c4. I get some quick initiative very fast, maybe c4, queen to b2, rook a d1. Very quick moves here from Magnus. Queen c3 allows knight takes d5, which I don't like.
With a tempo.
Correct.
And it's not Jan's style, really, to go pawn grabbing. He wants to play with the initiative. He wants to play quick, easy, active moves without allowing the opponent to come at him and attack. So, grabbing this knight does allow black to take the pawn on the next move, as just mentioned there. But a bit on the greedy side, and the risk-reward ratio probably isn't high enough there. So he brings his other bishop out instead. I think a very logical move, and showing the consequences, the downside of white's last move, the white queen no longer defending her knight on the f3 square.
Here we go. What do you think the move's going to be? Download Take, Take, Take. Experience chess fandom like never before. You know it, guys. Go download Take, Take, Take. It's right under me. Use exclamation point Take, Take, Take in chat or go.chess.com/takex3. What's the next move here?
Yeah, let's guess the move. Let's all do it.
Guess the move.
Let's all try and guess.
Okay. All right.
I'll go third.
This is the toughest
Queen
moment
takes
you could have
b6.
picked for this. You're losing that one.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah, because bishop takes knight, the kingside knight, is actually a big threat on the board, so you have to fight it. I would be tempted to move this knight away, but I'm struggling to find a square.
Knight g5.
Did he play? Oh, he brings the bishop to that square. He's got a threat. e7 is hanging.
That's a nice threat.
Yep, a big, big threat now. So black has no time to take the white knight. White would flick in. Bishop takes pawn, attacking the black queen, attacking the black rook, and ultimately win material. So I'm expecting the normal reaction, at least, is to simply defend this pawn with your rook. Does look a bit passive, though. Magnus gaining a tempo.
I have a question for you, David. I would be so tempted to take that knight on f3, but apparently it didn't work because of the whole tactics that we were looking at. So he first defends it, renews that threat of bishop takes knight. You'd love to jump in with your knight to the center of the board, but knight e4 unfortunately invites the d5 pawn, queen takes pawn, so he defends it. He's allowing Jan to destroy the pawn formation on the king side. I find this very surprising.
It's surprising because it's not typical Magnus. Normally, no matter what he does, he's a very universal player, of course, but he likes to have a very kind of stable structure, a nice skeleton to his position, long-term now and short-term. The white king is weak. The white pawns are so weak and isolated. I don't know how many islands this is, but it's too many for white. Ultimately, though, the black piece is very far from the king side, so he's thinking short-term. He's got so much activity with his rooks, with his bishop, with the white knight about to start jumping. He can get away with this, and maybe he's right.
This is playing with fire, though, right? That pawn formation long-term is a big strategic weakness. And even short-term, black can start targeting it by rerouting either the queen or the knight, David, via the d7 square. You put the knight there, it can jump to e5 or c5. You put the queen there and you enter on the right side of the board. There are all these ideas, and I'm surprised that Magnus voluntarily gave so much counterplay and these counter chances to Jan in this critical game 3. This is a dream position for Jan looking to make a comeback.
Yeah, very possible. It's annoying because I do have knight b5, but the queen d7 idea is very annoying. I'm just trying to get knight b5 in, obviously. d6, and then you have e takes d, rook takes e8, and then rook takes d6. But the queen gets into h3. You got some problems on the e1 square. It's just weird. It's very strange. Very strange. Which queen d7 is now played, so maybe he goes king g2 to tighten all that up.
Yeah, I think a good shout there, just in case the black queen is ever able to pounce. It's always nice to kind of control squares, and here the white king can protect everything. But in the meantime, look at the accuracy between the two players. This is a high-quality game, 99.5% accuracy by Nepomniachtchi so far. He's done everything right in his attempts to come back. But striking and catching Magnus off guard, that is going to be a whole another challenge. Knight to e4 played, hinting that the white knight might start its journey towards c5. Maybe this move that James mentioned there, d6, just trying to blow open diagonals for the white pieces, lines for the white rooks. How is black going to react?
That's a nice idea. d6 and knight f6 to follow and just take up over all the dark squares. And it could be problematic, but I can't get to h6 yet because of queen h3. So as we see the fans there, hey, what's up, guys? Hello.
Hey, give us a thumbs up.
Thumbs up, clap. Do some jumping jacks. Okay, don't do that. No. But no, awesome. Good to see all of you.
We definitely didn't tell them to clap on demand.
Love you guys. So 8-6 played right now, hitting that bishop from g5, forcing it to fall back. And again, not too many options. I would be tempted to put it on that f4 square on this diagonal. Feels like the most active spot here. But how is Jan eventually stopping that d6 move, right? That's the question. Because that bishop from f4 only doubles down on that threat.
Yeah, sometimes it's inevitable. There will be big pawn breaks, so you just have to brace for impact. You have to get all your pieces on the right squares. It's going to be tough. First big decision for Magnus. He
comes back to e3.
Okay, gets in the way of his rooks, though. But
maybe bishop d4, David. That's the point as well.
Hinting that he might even take the black knight on a good day. Start pawn grabbing. But yeah, I think you're right. Black's MVP is the black bishop. It's the heart and soul of the position. Jan loves his fianchettoed bishops as black, by the way. So a very good idea to trade that one off. No easy moves for Jan. That is another issue. We see him using up much more time than he has in previous rounds. Normally, Jan is up at like 7-8 minutes at this point. His opponent's down at 2 or 3 minutes. But he's behind on the clock. Maybe the match situation playing a part there.
And it's a very complicated game, right? I mean, visually, it looks like Black should be doing well here because White has got these very unhealthy pawns. Black has got no targets. You know, there are no pawns to be attacked. Looks like a great structure. And Jan jumps in, a big move with the queen to the right side of the board, eyeing that f3 pawn. And now a decision by Magnus. Will he give up the bishop for the knight, or will he try to trade off that MVP, the most valued piece in Black's position, with a move like bishop d4? Let's not forget the queen laterally then defends the f3 pawn once the bishop is out of the way.
I vote for your move, Tanya.
Which is my move.
You convinced me. Trade off those bishops. And the black queen is a bit of a lone ranger right now. She's not really doing too much on her own. So as long as you protect all the pawns around... Wow, he actually goes the other way, Magnus. He's just lost a move on purpose. His bishop could have landed here last turn.
So strange.
Very odd. But the bishop is quite well placed there. It does kind of hint that it might drop back and totally block off the black queen. But yeah, slightly odd. Inconsistent from Magnus.
David, put yourself in Jan's shoes right now, right? As our in-house grandmaster, our resident grandmaster. You're down 2 points. You've got this position. What's going on in your mind right now?
I mean, I haven't been able to compete with these two since 2002. But, I mean, if I were Jan, I would just be trying to keep as much tension as possible. It is a difficult position, though, to kind of even know where to start calculating. The black rook in the corner, still at home on its starting square, needs to get into the game, but it feels a bit slow. It feels like White is now ready to break open the position with that d6 move that we were talking about. I would just be trying to find a way to deal with that, survive the next few moves. Long term, Black is doing great. Black's got a better pawn structure, so short term, it's about survival. He brings his knight into the game.
Is he going to go d6 now? Is the big move coming in? And Jan down to 3 minutes. He'll have some big questions to answer with little time on the clock.
D6 might be answered with, crazy enough, E5. And then, you know, E5 could be a thing. And then, but I want to get F5 and G5 in. Obviously, I can't because the queen on B3, but D6 is possible. I wonder where he's going with his knight, though. Knight D7, where are we going? Maybe knight F6, I guess.
Or maybe even E5, right?
Yeah.
Targeting that F3 pawn. I mean, give Black one move and you're looking at some knight jumps which are uncomfortable for the White king.
All right.
Yeah, some pawn twiddling going on. Piece twiddling from Magnus. Jan playing with a pawn there. D6 eventually does land as expected. Long awaited this pawn break. The white rooks are licking their lips now at the prospect of open lines, so it might be time to block things up. I like your move, James. Just lock the files. Yes, that's a scary pawn to allow to live, but opening things up would be disastrous for Black with the queen so far offside.
Yeah,
Big
E6
moment.
is going to be bad. E6 allows queen B7 with tempo, and that pawn on D6 is a monster. So maybe you do go E5, and then just to gain the tempo, we gain some time there. Bishop moves away, and then where'd he go? Knight E5 instead.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa, was not expecting that one.
He blocks that attack on the F3 pawn, moves the bishop back, and still a decision to be made on that pawn, that big pawn on D6.
Yeah, the blue arrow makes an appearance. That is the computer's suggestion, the top move by a large margin. I'm not sure whether anything else loses. I think you can stay alive in various ways, but by far the best move, rook to D8.
Well, pawn takes pawn you can disregard, right? Because that knight jumps to D6, attacks that rook on E8. The rook opens up with contact to the E5 knight. And there are so many threats on the F7 pawn, the rook and the knight. And Jan finds the best move to stay alive in this game.
Yeah, I think Magnus might have underestimated this one, you know. It's not the most obvious move. I was actually going to say it's a difficult one to find, but Jan is a very dynamic player. He gets the dancing going again, head bobbing.
He's vibing. He's a vibing Jan.
Usually when he does that, it means he's enjoying his position. But he's got 2 minutes on the clock. And, you know, the complications, they're all still here. There's a lot to navigate right now for black.
Should we try and figure out what happens if pawn takes pawn? Okay, he actually attacks the black knight, Magnus, very quickly. And, wow, going back now, this is the computer, the blue arrow, top move by a margin.
Easy. Queen b7, like, with tempo. That's insane.
That's super tough. I mean, I would be so tempted to get that black knight towards the white king, right? Move it to g4. Ooh. And Jan, second time in a row, plays the best move.
Of course he does. I was looking the other direction as well. The white king looks so juicy as a target, but actually this is the square he wants, Jan Nepomniachtchi, supported by his fianchettoed bishop. The black knight's going to do some serious damage there, and I think queen takes pawn is likely to happen. Magnus loves grabbing pawns, but then the black knight does jump with big threats. And, momentum could turn.
Are we going to see a classic Magnus Carlsen exchange sacrifice on d4 when that knight jumps in? Rook takes knight, give up your rook, and then grab that e7 pawn.
I think it's going to happen, Tanya. Magnus is definitely terrified, and rightly so, of this knight check. But look at the bar slide. This is the best position Jan has had all match so far.
And James, I'm surprised at that computer evaluation that we're seeing, because taking that knight on d4, getting rid of it, getting a pawn on e7 looks so incredibly dangerous. But I think Jan's defensive resource of rook d7 at the end of the line to get rid of that pawn immediately is where it's at.
Yeah, rook d7, supported by the black queen from afar. Black will likely defend this. Maybe we just quickly jump in and show there are some tricks, some traps in the air. Magnus, whoa, he moves his king. We were expecting a sacrifice here. Now black can maybe just take this pawn on d6. But just to backtrack, the reason Magnus was so terrified is actually pawn takes pawn I was trying to work out. But now black simply gives a check. And I thought this was terrifying. Knight takes e1 would have actually threatened checkmate. Black would have had winning attack. But king to h1, Jan did indeed just capture this pawn. This is the current game position. And he's just a pawn ahead. Where are the tricks? What is... Oh, he's not even a pawn up, actually. White did grab on b7, but the black knight is coming in. It feels like it's all about black's attack and the weak white king.
And look at that bishop that Magnus has on g3. That's not even a bishop. It's just blocked and clamped by its own pawns. Meanwhile, bishop on g7, beautiful. Yes, like you're saying, a big pawn. Knight jumping into f3, the e file open. That d pawn will move one step ahead to destabilize that knight on e4. Is Jan about to make a comeback?
Ooh, it does look possible.
Very possible. It's a very fantastic position for him, but it is times getting lower, as we've seen. I mean, we've even seen it from both sides here. Even Jan saving a position against Ali Reza yesterday, but then also Magnus saving against Wesley early in the round-robin stage. It's very possible. Definitely, Jan has a good position here, but he has to convert, which is very hard to do, especially with lower time.
And James, the head bob was back. I don't know if you saw that. Knight f5, and he was vibing.
Whoa, knight to c5, though. Magnus trying to use some pins, some tricks, and tactics to stay alive. The black rooks were about to double up on the e-file. Now one set of rooks has disappeared, been traded. There is a pin, of course, the black rook. Not protected, so you cannot take this knight, but if he can ever get this rook into play, if you can pick that rook and put it anywhere in white's half, anywhere in white's camp, it's just over. The black queen knight, they're fantastic. They just need a little bit more.
Oh, nice tactic there. Rook e4, big fella. He's swinging. He's swinging. There's an f1 mate there. Everywhere. Wow, that was an incredible move.
Yeah, the white knight cannot jump out the way with a check, because if the white rook ever moves away, it takes the black rook, as you mentioned there, Kansi. Checkmate. You've got to watch your back door here.
Wait, can I still go knight f6 and take with the queen, though? Knight f6,
bishop g7.
Oh, there's knight g7. Oh, that's the problem. Because I was going to go queen e8 with bishop g7.
Oh, nice.
But there's knight g7.
You show this.
Nasty.
Beautiful.
Knight check doesn't work. Now, rook takes rook allows checkmate. Meanwhile, after a capture, queen takes knight to g7, protecting the rook. And now this tension, again, leads to these checkmating ideas. Black would be a piece up. I think Magnus might have missed this trick. It does look like it was about to work for white. But now this pin is so annoying.
That was nice. I ain't gonna lie. Incredible move from Jan.
Oh, and he's vibing. Down to 1 minute each.
Yeah, this is getting very tricky for Magnus. He sidesteps the idea of queen f1, and immediately Jan responds by getting his rook to a defensive square on e6. No more tricks with the knight jumping. No more discover checks. And you can see it on Magnus. He's not happy.
He's not happy at all. He reluctantly moves his rook out of the pin. The black queen drops back.
Rook takes knight, a big threat, deflecting the white queen.
Watch out. Apparently not the best move, but a very testing move. It's the type of move that could tip the opponent over the edge if they're not careful. No time for Magnus. He moves his rook.
Defends it. And the black queen can't jump to that f3 square because you've got these jumps with the knight capturing that queen that would look so dangerous on f3. That would be a big blunder.
Yeah, Jan's last move, the only downside is he was playing for tricks. Okay, now he pins the white bishop.
Knight h4 ideas.
Ooh, poison pawn, don't take that one. If the black queen captures that f-pawn now, then there are tricks. The white knight jumps out the way. The white queen was indirectly defending it. Oh, Magnus is defending, but oh, g5, blue arrow.
That's great. That's bad.
Never gonna
Hold on,
happen.
bro. G5 is sick, though, because the rook coming over, too. But wow, what a move.
Yeah, that makes no sense. You know, you lose the defense of the knight. Pawn takes pawn, felt like a free pawn there. He first comes back with the knight. G5 ideas revolve around opening up the G file for the black rook, but now you can't play it. The queen is lined up against the black king. Nice move by Magnus.
Yep.
Jan keeping on the pressure. He comes back, attacking the f4 pawn. Every move coming in with a threat.
Bishop G or E3, probably, defending.
Ooh, Magnus takes a pawn, though. Pawn's disappearing. The white king is so weak, but the pieces are perfectly coordinated. And, okay, does Jan have an opportunity? Queen takes pawn now.
It's not a free pawn because f7 gets picked up and Jan's knight is coming towards Magnus's king.
Oh, this is ugly.
Tactics
In the zone.
are always going to work in black's favor because his king is totally safe for Jan Nepomniachtchi, whereas Magnus Carlsen's king right now is so vulnerable from so many different angles. White's knight is so far offside as well.
It's trapped there. There's no way home for that knight. So you have to watch out. Not only save your king, but the knight on f7 as well.
They're both on the 30
Attack?
seconds. Knight D8
Ooh.
only move.
Oh, it's coming back. He has to move that knight, save it.
Oh, he has rook D6. That's
Under 10 seconds.
And rook
Can't play
e3 as well. Those are the other ideas. There's no time. Magnus needs to make a move.
Get a move!
Oh, he chooses the best square for his knight. The black knight was too strong, had to be challenged. Now, if there is an exchange, then white might be able to save the game. The black knight needs to stay on the board somehow.
But you
Down
can-
under 15 seconds.
And Jan can enter with the rook to e3, attack that queen. He does it. Knight takes knight would not work because of tactics. Has to move the queen.
Has to move the queen and, okay, there is a capture. It's knight for bishop exchange. But now there's no more attack. The white king looks much safer than it was previously.
But there's so much attack on the clock right now for both these players. So much tension. Jan down to 6 seconds.
Gotta move.
And still a lot of tactics on the board.
He cannot let this turn Jan Nepomniachtchi. It is turning. He's lost control completely now. The white knight is beautifully placed on an outpost.
And the white king perfectly safe behind his own pawns now. And look at the way Magnus has transposed this position, getting the queen centralized in front of the rook, complete control of the d file, blocking of the e file with his own knight.
Oh,
a
yeah.
complete time scramble.
This could be bad for black. With this queen coming to B7 next, probably still drawn.
2 seconds. Oof.
And Jan desperately trying to hold things together, but now a check.
Beautiful.
Oh, you have to be so
Tactics.
careful.
Oh my gosh.
He had to go queen B8. Nice.
Oh, now there's an exchange. Is it going to be knight or bishop that triumphs, though?
That knight lands on c6. You end up losing that a7 pawn. Magnus, how's he going to find a way to attack that bishop?
There are pawns on both sides of the board, so bishop might be able to hold its own, but right now, white's a pawn, 2 squares from promotion. That could be disastrous for black. Okay, he's stabilizing, though. He's defending everything, Jan, really well. A draw would be a great result for him at this point. Magnus is applying some pressure. Jan cannot afford to lose.
What an absolute roller coaster of a game this is. The king comes back to defend that pawn. This endgame is not over. It could go any way. Both players have managed to get some time on the clock. But maybe Magnus needs to be a little careful because the black king might slowly march over to the left side of the board and pick up that a6 pawn.
Quickly march over.
Oh.
King is coming. It's going to be a race.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Take. Uh-oh. He has to try to bail out.
Jan was actually winning if he hadn't pushed his h-pawn, kept more pawns on the board, but now not enough pawns left. The pieces will give each other up for the remaining pawns, and we'll soon see a handshake. This one's going to end with king versus king.
Yeah. And the white knight finds itself on the right spot. A3 is the square where you need it to jump around and stop that black pawn from promoting.
And Magnus now just needs to bring his knight back, or his king across. A flashy way of banking the draw.
Whoa. And a sigh of relief there. What a game.